proud superintendent of our amazing district. And just want to let you know, if you didn't hear me initially, we have a ton of resources out in the front. They look like cartoon figures, but those are actually resources from the National Safety Association. And those are available for all of our families. So please feel free to take a look at those. Those have some important information. We're going to have them also in our Family Resource Center, and our schools will also have copies of those. Today's event really is to give an overview of the new law that is allowing us to have distraction-free learning zones in our schools. So today we're going to kind of give you a broad overview of what the law states. We're going to talk a little bit about the policy that we've had approved by the board and how we're going to go ahead and implement the policy in the district. Again, I want to thank you all for carving out time. We have folks here. We also have folks online. So again, just thank you. We're going to have an opportunity for Q&A. We had a survey that we sent out. We had about 15 questions. We were able to narrow those questions down to 5. And so we have an opportunity this afternoon to answer those questions. If there's additional time and there's additional questions that have not been answered, we'll have an opportunity for that as well. So again, thank you all for being here. And we're going to get started. I want to give my colleague here an opportunity to introduce herself.
Hi everyone, I'm Melissa Lawson. I'm the Assistant Superintendent for Student Supports. And we are really here to provide information today and answer questions so that people feel like they understand what the expectations are when their children come to school, but also how to reach out if they're concerned about something or concerned about the loss of connection that families will have with their children in school. Because we do recognize that that is a loss for some, and we want to really think about that and offer solutions as far as how you can reach out if you have questions or concerns.
Thank you. So first and foremost, we'll start here in terms of the law. So again, this is not something that's optional. There's a law. It's in place, and we are doing our very best to make sure that we communicate it, that we implement the policy and the law as successful as possible. We understand that there's going to be an implementation dip, which means there's going to be some opportunities for learning at the very beginning. And so we want to make sure that we have those opportunities. We're going to be explaining it to students in orientation, in assemblies, and making sure that they understand why this is in place and how we're moving forward with it. So understanding the law. So the focus of the law is really to promote safety, social emotional well-being, and then also making sure that distractions in the learning are mitigated. And so that's why the law came into play. We have met all the requirements to have the board review and approve the policy in the time that was given to us as school leaders, which was August 1st. And so in terms of the policy and sort of the work around this, as I mentioned before, it really is to make sure that we reduce the distractions in the learning environment. We really want to make sure that students are focusing on what they need to do in school. We know that there's distractions when it comes to cell phones. Our focus is always to make sure that we don't want to just say no to the devices, right? Because we understand that in classrooms there are some learning experiences that students may need those devices, and we want to make sure that teachers have the autonomy to choose when they need those resources. And so that will be clearly communicated with our staff, will be clearly communicated with our students, but that's one exception to the rule. So if a teacher in their curriculum requires some sort of device, that will be allowed to enhance the learning for students. We also want to make sure that we continue to emphasize the safety that's needed when using the tools. So you'll see a lot of resources out there with various platforms, some that were new to me. I wasn't aware of all the various platforms. But we want to make sure that we continue to emphasize the safety around the use of the devices. And I'm really excited to share with you that our students do receive support in the elementary schools through Mr. Wirt and his department and his team of teachers. They do receive digital citizenship in their library media special classes. In the middle school, they also receive instruction, and so we're looking to expand that in the high school as well. So in terms of guidelines for device use, so there are certain exceptions to the policy. Number one, as I mentioned, teacher autonomy as it relates to student learning experiences. So if it's related to the curriculum and it's going to enhance the curriculum, then it's allowed. Again, once the student is clearly instructed on the time period that it can be out, the time period that needs to be put away, that's one exception. Another exception is for health-related matters. So if there's a documented health need, such as diabetes, and you need it for glucose monitoring, that's an exception to the rule. And then also, if there's any special needs that for whatever reason, an individualized education plan requires that a student have some sort of device that's internet enabled, that is another reason why we would allow that to happen. But it has to be documented. And so for those reasons, we'll be making sure that we communicate with all the staff that are involved to ensure that they understand. For students that have special needs, we want to make sure that their needs are being met. As I mentioned, these are the reasons when the devices can be used for specific scenarios in the school setting. So when it comes to devices, we are a one-to-one district. Our students have access to Chromebooks, and those devices are instructional tools. We see that as an opportunity to enhance the learning that takes place in the school. So students will have access to those devices in school. They will be connected to our network, and we'll be making sure that there's certain sites that they can access as it relates to the curriculum, and other sites that they can't have access to. So those are things that are being worked on or continue to be worked on. As I mentioned before, the digital wellness, digital citizenship, those are things that are being addressed in our schools. We want to continue to help students understand, like if we're thinking about preparing students for the 21st century, we want to make sure that they understand that these tools do help you to ensure that you're opening up opportunities as you move on in grades, as you access information. But we want to make sure that they're doing it safely. And so some of those resources, as I mentioned before, are resources that you can use to also help when students are not on the devices in school and when their devices are at home. It's also another opportunity for our families to engage in that way with our students. So as I mentioned, those are the resources that are outside. Those are available for you. Please feel free to take as many copies as you need and want. So with regards to the policy, again, we are in the business of teaching and learning. And so one of the things that is very clear in the law is that for a student to have a cell phone, and this be, let's say, only the first time the student has a cell phone, the student is not going to receive a consequence right away, right? So we want to make sure that we use this as an opportunity to teach the students So in terms of initial warnings, what I will do before I pass it over to Mrs. Lawson is so New York State has given school districts an allotment of funds. Now they broadcasted $13 million. We got $10 per student. So for many, we have a lot of questions. Why don't we move to the yonder pouches or pouches in general for every student? Well, the expenditure for that is way above what the funds would allow. And so with companies, they've seen this as an opportunity and will not allow individual schools to purchase like 1 or 2 or 10 or 100. It has to be district-wide that we have to purchase. So, you know, it's an economic approach that they're taking. For us, we want to make sure that we provide different tiers of support. So we are purchasing in every school storage devices with the funds that have been provided, where it's similar to a lockbox, and it has different slots, which are going to be bolted in administrators' offices, and each slot has a key, one key for each of the slots. And so we'll go into what would entail a student having to put their cell phone in that lockable storage. Another is, and again, this is again based on need and based on different tiers of support, is we do have, similar to what you would see when there's a money pickup, when these armored trucks come in and they have like these bags that are locked, or the bank tellers, like these bags that have a lock and key. We have some of those that are being ordered as well for certain situations where that might require. What we're going to do right now is kind of go through first warning, second warning, third warning, and kind of outline that so that families know what that looks like in our district.
Okay, so, sorry, I have to come over to my computer to read off the expectations and our interventions. So, the first time that a student has their cell phone or internet-enabled device, which includes Apple Watches or smartwatches, there will be a reminder for the student of the policy and a request for them to put it in their locker. Lockers are an allowable storage option for our students. At the elementary classrooms, obviously we don't have lockers in every building, but elementary classrooms have cubbies and things like that where they can be stored as well. So the first time, it's a reminder with a request to put it away. The second time a student has a device out, there will be a reminder of the policy, and the office staff will take the student to the office to store the device till the end of the day. At that point, the office would contact the guardian as well to let them know that, hey, I had to talk to your child today. We stored the cell phone in the office. Just can you please talk with them about keeping it away for the day? Third time, same thing happens. They'll be reminded of the policy. It will be stored in the office, in the lockable storage unit, and the student will get it back at the end of the day with a parent notification. The fourth time that something happens, all the same things happen, but the parent will be asked to come and pick up the device at the end of the day, just as a way for us to connect and talk about it and see if there's something else that the student might need as a support to keep their cell phone away. And finally, the fifth instance, we will put together a plan, because by time 5, students know the rule and the expectations, so we would want to meet as a team with the student and the parent to come up with a plan which could include a lockable bag where the student puts their cell phone in the bag, it gets locked, the lock is stored in the office, but the student can carry the bag with them, because maybe it's about go and be somewhere else. But that's a plan that would be created with office staff and the family involved. And those are the steps that we have outlined. Of course, if the student gets argumentative or the situation escalates, we don't want to engage in a power struggle. But if the student does get upset, then we would follow the code of conduct. If there was insubordination of some kind, we would follow what's outlined in our code of conduct for that reason. We have already placed orders for the storage units and the storage bags, so they should be ready to go by the time kids come to school on September 5th. So we really tried to take an approach that was more about reminding and teaching and supporting rather than a punitive approach. But, we will be contacting families and working with families if cell phones do become an issue over time and students have repeated use or have them out repeatedly.
Thank you. So one of the things that we thought about as we were kind of listing out the steps is we want to empower the students to make good choices and to learn. We also did not want to put teachers in predicament where they have to sort of be the ones that are engaging in this exchange. So that's why our administrators are going to be the support for our classroom instructors. So again, we have different steps involved. We want to make sure that we're teaching, but certainly if it comes to a point where we need to apply the code of conduct, then we will certainly do that. In terms of contacting students, because I know that this is a concern for families, especially if there's some sort of emergency you need to get your child. So similar to when we were in school, we would contact the office, and so that still remains true. That's still an opportunity. We do have several offices that we will be making sure that information is updated so that families have the different offices that they can call and for what reasons and supports. But the main office is your first line of defense in terms of contacting and getting some support. I do understand that if you are unable to get through to the main office, we certainly want to make sure that we have a secondary number as well available. So in terms of monitoring this policy, district to
face difficulties during this transition?
Thank you. That's a great question. Let's give them a round of applause. So social emotional supports. So as Mrs. Lawson indicated, we have, we're poised in our district because we have several supports. We have a school counselor in every school. We have a psychologist in every school. We have a social worker in every school. I mean, we That's correct. So all internet-enabled devices are not allowed. So watch phones, earbuds, I don't know what some of the other devices are. There's so many of them, tablets. So students don't need those devices in school because they do have a Chromebook to access the curriculum. If you do send your child to school with a device, it has to be put away in the locker. So it has to be put away. You can't see it because if it's seen, then they're not following through on the policy. So they will be spoken to and kind of follow through with those list of interventions that we have.
Okay, so say you have an elementary school kid.
Yes.
Are they able to put the watch back on before they get on the bus?
Yes.
So that way, you know, they can alert
Yes.
parents,
Yeah.
siblings,
Yes.
on their own?
Yeah,
Are they
that's-
gonna have
that's-
time to do that?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. Whether it's a cell phone or a watch, they're allowed to put that on, upon dismissal, because I understand that some families want to communicate and say, hey, are you at home, or want to follow them on 360, right, and identify what stop they're on. So we get that. The law does not prevent us from allowing students to put those devices on after the school day ends. So they would have enough time to be able to put the watch on, or take the phone and turn it on, or whatever it is that we have to do to notify you that you're on the way home.
Okay, and one last question, I'm so sorry.
No, please don't apologize. This is what this is about.
Now, with the Chromebooks, I know sometimes they use headphones to, listen to whatever they're doing on a laptop,
Yes.
right? So they're not allowed to have earbuds. Can they have another type of headphones, or is no type of headphones at all?
So if the headphones are for the Chromebook, that's for the learning to take place, that will be allowed. That will take place.
Okay.
Yes, that will take place.
So the students are allowed to have them on them as long as they're at work?
Yes, yes.
Or
Yes,
they have
in
to
their
be
locker.
in the locker.
In their locker.
In your locker?
Yes. as soon as practicable, we would be notifying families. But again, our primary focus is keeping the kids and staff safe. Other questions? Oh, Sean. Yeah, that's not changed. That's not changed. Students still can continue to do that. Yep. Yes, sir, in the back. Correct.
What about tracker watches that look like an Apple Watch or a smartwatch, but they're not connected to the internet? However, they are GPS. And you cannot take them off once they're on.
So I'm not familiar with that type of device. So you can't take off the device?
Once the watch band is on, it is locked.
Okay.
And it cannot be taken off unless it's by code or an adult that has a device that unlocks it. The simple fact that it tracks a child, God forbid a child is abducted, it cannot be removed. But it looks like an Apple Watch. It is considered a smartwatch.
Okay.
But it is not connected to the internet. It only has GPS capability on it.
So that would be a meeting that we would need to have with that parent or guardian. If you're that parent, then we need to schedule a meeting as soon as possible so that we can.
Because I know of them, because I've run into situations working in emergency services
Okay.
with those devices.
Yeah.
Separate meeting.
Yeah.
To come up with a plan.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that device, but we would certainly schedule a time to meet with that parent or guardian if they have, understanding there might be a special reason why that's in place that we're not aware of. So those are the circumstances on a case-by-case basis. We're going to have to sit down and figure that out collectively. Any other questions? I hope that this session allowed for an understanding of the policy. Again, this is a law, right? This is not something that we put in place. This is something that was state mandated, and we're responding to it as best as we can to make sure that we're in compliance with the law, but at the same time making sure that we provide autonomy for our teachers, that we support our students in this transition, because this is a new norm for them. This is something that they've never experienced. And so we're really working collectively to make sure that we're able to move forward, to make sure that we continue to be a teaching and learning organization, that we focus on teaching and learning. And so anything comes up, our administrators are available to meet with families. We're here as a support. Our Family Resource Center is open for resources that you may need maybe after school ends, right? And what are some supports that families may need? Because again, this is going to be new for everyone, and we want to support everyone as best as possible in this transition. So I just want to thank you all for coming out. Really appreciate you taking the time out. We're really excited for a new and exciting school year. We have some great things lined up. So we look forward to welcoming your children on September 4th. September 4th, right? September 4th. So it's right around the corner, folks. So thank you again. Have a great evening, and thank you again for coming out. Be well. Make sure you take resources on your way out.